All right, let's dive straight into this massive legislative shift, and we're going to look at it through a really fascinating lens today. If you've been running a private tutoring business, hustling in network marketing, and actively managing your own portfolio of HSAs and IRAs since 2017, well, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or OBBBA, is literally about to rewrite your playbook. But we aren't stopping there. We're also going to unpack exactly what this legislation means for the everyday working American across entirely different sectors of our economy. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First up, the July 4th overhaul. Second, the 529 expansion. Third, small business and QBI wins. Fourth, HSAs and health savings. Fifth, Schedule 1A worker relief. And finally, Trump accounts and the future.
Okay, Section 1, OBBBA, the July 4th overhaul.
So, Public Law 1/1921 was officially signed on July 4th, 2025. Talk about an Independence Day overhaul, right? This locks in major structural tax reforms, effectively preventing the expiration of those 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act provisions, while simultaneously injecting trillions of dollars in new tax mechanisms. And it acted as a rapid catalyst literally the moment the ink dried. Just look at this timeline. On July 5th, the very next day, expanded uses for 529 plans took immediate effect. And then, looking just a bit ahead to January 1st, 2026, the withdrawal limits for these specific accounts actually double.
Moving on to Section 2, 529 expansion, a tutoring boom.
Now, for your private education and tutoring business, this is absolutely vital. I mean, it is a total game changer. It opens up a massive new pool of tax-free capital that parents can spend directly on your services. The crucial takeaway here is that 529 funds are no longer trapped behind traditional school tuition walls. Under the old rules, parents were strictly boxed in by a $10,000 annual cap for K-12 tuition. But under the new rules, those tax-advantaged funds can flow straight to licensed teachers, former teachers, or verified subject matter experts, like yourself, for academic tutoring, prep tests, and curriculum. Plus, in 2026, that spending limit doubles to a cool $20,000 per student. That gives families significantly more purchasing power for the exact supplemental education you're providing.
This really brilliantly illustrates the real-world application here. Parents who are utilizing institutional plans like ScholarShare 529 now have a very strong financial incentive to invest heavily in independent educators. Honestly, if you run a tutoring business, making your clients aware of this newly unlocked tax-free funding source is a day-one strategy for growth.
Section 3, Small Business and QBI Wins. Let's pivot over to your network marketing business and any pass-through entities you operate. For you, the OBBB provides massive relief and, maybe more importantly, permanent certainty. The absolute most critical update here is the permanence of the 20% qualified business income deduction. You know how annoying that looming expiration date was for long-term planning? Well, this act makes it permanent, completely removing that headache for your bottom line. But wait, it doesn't stop at QBI. By aggressively incentivizing capital investment through permanent 100% bonus depreciation, you can now write off the entire cost of qualifying business equipment in the exact same year you buy it. The bill also expands the QBI income phase-out thresholds, pushing them up to $75,000 for single filers and $150,000 for joint filers. And it even introduces a brand new $400 minimum deduction, literally just for being an active, materially participating business owner. Also, a quick side note, if you happen to work with manufacturers, there's a new qualified production property write-off that allows 100% depreciation of certain real property used in domestic manufacturing. Overall, it's a very long-term runway for scaling your operations.
Let's look at Section 4, HSAs and health savings.
Since you manage your own HSA and obviously value having total control over your personal portfolio, we need to break down these new flexibilities. These 3 steps give you so much more agility. First, starting in 2026, if you buy a bronze or catastrophic plan on the ACA exchange, boom, you automatically qualify to contribute to an HSA. Second, a permanent telehealth safe harbor means your plan can cover virtual care from day one, and it won't ruin your HSA eligibility. And third, this one is huge. Direct primary care arrangements, where you pay your doctor a flat monthly fee, are now eligible HSA expenses up to $150 a month for individuals. You get to use direct primary care and telehealth without ever jeopardizing that sweet tax-advantaged status. Okay, so we've covered the entrepreneurial side of things, but let's dive into a real pivot point here. What does this actually mean for the everyday workforce across completely different economic sectors?
Beyond the business owners, how does the service worker, the factory floor employee, or even a senior citizen navigate this brand new tax landscape?
Section 5, Schedule 1A, Worker Relief.
The answer to that question lies in a brand new IRS form called Schedule 1A. This creates these hybrid, above-the-line deductions that target relief directly at specific sectors. And get this, you can claim them even if you just take the standard deduction. For the service industry, eligible workers can deduct up to $25,000 in voluntary tips. For the factory floor and hourly workers, there is a deduction for the premium portion of overtime pay, up to $12,500 for singles and $25,000 for joint filers. There's also a $10,000 deduction for auto loan interest on new U.S. assembled vehicles, specifically designed to boost domestic manufacturing. And seniors get a new $6,000 deduction too. Notice the phase-outs in this matrix. These benefits are highly targeted at low and middle-income workers, generally phasing out once a single earner hits that $100,000 to $150,000 mark.
Alongside Schedule 1A, average Americans are just going to benefit from much simpler filings. The standard deduction is permanently increased to $15,750 for singles and $31,500 for married couples. That just means more take-home pay, plain and simple, across diverse household structures. On top of that, the child tax credit is permanently enhanced to $2,200 per child, and the alternative minimum tax exemption thresholds are raised, which prevents millions of middle-class families from getting penalized by all those complex alternative tax calculations.
Finally, Section 6, Trump Accounts and the Future. So to help build real generational wealth, the OBBBA introduces something called Trump Accounts. Think of these as tax-advantaged starter IRAs specifically for children under 18. They allow up to $5,000 a year in after-tax contributions. Relatives, employers, even nonprofits can chip in. And these new accounts feature a really unique twist, a $1,000 Treasury pilot contribution for qualifying children born between 2025 and 2028. The whole goal is to instill compound investment growth habits from literally day one. And of course, the earnings grow tax-deferred until distribution.
Now, while this bill is an undeniable catalyst for small business owners, educators, and hourly workers, it comes with a pretty steep macroeconomic price tag. The Congressional Budget Office projects the tax title of this act will aggressively expand the national deficit by an estimated $3.4 trillion over the next 10 years. That's a lot of zeros, and it's understandably sparked significant debate among policy analysts over whether this is actually sustainable in the long run.
So I want to leave you with this final thought, pulled straight from the fiscal analysis of the bill. The success of Public Law 11921 will be measured not only by short-term GDP growth, but also by the nation's ability to manage the unprecedented deficit expansion. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Will this patriotic overhaul create a self-sustaining cycle of domestic investment that outpaces those massive costs? Or will this $3.4 trillion debt burden ultimately reshape our economy for the worse? It's a massive shift for sure. But whether you're an entrepreneur scaling your own independent business or a factory worker logging those overtime hours, understanding these new rules is absolutely your key to maximizing the benefits. Thanks so much for joining me for today's Explainer.